Hey there, welcome to the weekend interview of the Inside Running podcast. This week we're taking you back to March 2022. This was an interview with Josh Kerr. Part 1 and Part 2 were episode number 227 and 228. We've put them together. Luke Mathews helped us out with this one. He's got a good relationship with Josh. This was after his Olympic medal, but before he won the World Championships. So that gives you a bit of time context there. Massive thank you again to Luke for completing this interview. It goes for a while, very detailed. He's very good at doing his research and knowing stats, things like that. He's definitely got a talent for the podcast journalist, whatever you want to call it, game. And yeah, massive thanks for Luke and Josh for giving up their time for the Inside Running podcast for this one. Been a big week in Australian distance running. We're going to get to all that stuff on the weekly show, which comes out on Monday night for Patreon and Wednesday night everywhere. We did have a quick go of it, about a 30-minute episode on Thursday night, just with our kind of like unfiltered, uncut, like first thoughts about all the stuff and the controversy around the women's marathon team. So if you want to support us on any level of Patreon, you can access that now. We will do a much more like polished version of it for public content release over the episode coming up. So yeah, looking forward to chatting to the boys again about that. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the sunshine if you got any sun on you. If you're racing Albert Park 10K tomorrow, have fun there. If you're at Wollongong, have fun there. If you're heading to Tasmania for the Launceston Running Festival, like two of our Road to Gold Coast people are, Reese Edwards and Sam Hopper, have fun down there as well. Say good day to them. And we'll be back early next week recapping all the stuff that's happened in the past week of Australian and worldwide distance running. Thanks, legends. See you later. Bye.
This week's guest on the Inside Running podcast is Josh Kerr. Josh is a Scottish 1500 metre runner who won a bronze medal in the 1500 metres at the Tokyo Olympics behind Jacob Ingebrigtsen and Timothy Cheruiyot. Josh holds impressive PBs of 1:45, 3:29 and 13:23 outdoors. Just recently, Josh broke the 1500 metres and mile British indoor record in the same race, running 3:32.8 en route to running a 3:48 mile. Before Josh turned pro, he was a successful junior, winning the 1500 metres at the 2015 Under-20 Euro Championships, a year before making the 1500 metre final at the 2016 World Junior Championships. Josh attended the University of New Mexico, where he won 3 national championships and broke the NCAA 1500 metre record, which stood until last year. In 2018, Josh decided to forego his remaining eligibility and sign a contract with the Brooks Beast under the guidance of Danny Mackey. Away from athletics, Josh co-hosts a successful podcast with Brooks Beast teammate David Rippich named Sit and Kick. Josh, thanks for coming on and welcome to the Inside Running podcast.
Thank you very much. I think I'm very proud that you introduced me as Scottish and not British. That's what I like to hear.
I think that is it's a thing as well. I feel like the Scottish athletes are really proud that they're Scottish as well. But if you're anywhere else, it's British.
Yeah, I know. It should be British, but I think it's quite funny when we're Scottish. I think that's funny.
Yeah, and it's funny as well. When I spoke to Jake Whiteman at the tail end of 2018, I was like, "What are you more proud of in 2018, the Euro or the Commonwealth Games medal?" And he's like, "Oh, probably Commonwealth Games because I ran for Scotland."
Hey, it makes sense. Like I think obviously Commons are every 4 years, but being able to compete even against all the other Brits at a major, I think it's pretty cool. We got the Aussies in there as well, haven't we? So. Yeah, that's a good medal to have.
Yeah, Commonwealth Games medals are really hard to get. So
here he goes, mate. I don't have one.
So where are you based at the moment? I think you said you're in New Mexico.
So I'm in New Mexico at the moment. My missus lives out here. My fiance lives out here. So we have 2 weeks of downtime off training because after indoors before we start ramping it up for outdoors. So I'm in Albuquerque, spending a little bit of time with her, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure we'll try to get up into the split up of New Mexico to Seattle soon. But obviously the most recent result to date is your most recent race at Boston. So you just want to maybe talk to us a little bit about that because One, not only was it impressive, but the thing that I liked the most about it was you were so public in saying, I'm going to break the 15 and the mile in the same race. And it's like, fuck, it's a pretty big call, but you went out and did it. So give us a little rundown on that.
Yeah, man, it was an accumulation of a lot of hard work between kind of Ray, my agent, and Danny kind of sorting that race out. And so I got in trouble a little bit week off the race for continuing to talk about it like publicly, because I think they were having a hard time like keeping the field size kind of like smaller, because there's not a lot of time where you're going to get pretty much guaranteed a pacer through, a full mile race. So a lot of college kids wanted to be involved. Obviously, a lot of pros want to be involved because it's a fast race. But yeah, there was a lot of effort on kind of their side of things to put it together. And then it was just, up to me to turn up and do the job. But it was a very enjoyable race. And I knew I'd get the mile record. I think the 15 was going to be difficult. And I was able to snatch that one. So yeah, it was tough. And because I don't want to run world indoors, I have really no interest of doing that. Then it was like a bit of a fun opportunity to try and run as quickly as possible. And there's a bit of history to get in there. And, obviously we got the new Brook spikes as well. So we got to show them off and running as fast as we can. So yeah, it was a lot of fun in Boston last week.
Yeah, pretty incredible. And did you feel like you had a bit of something to get back after Ollie beat you at Milrose? Like, did you feel like you had to get one back and go quicker or anything like that?
Yeah, man, I'm a bitter man, you see, Luke, like that's the way it goes. When someone beats me, regardless who it is, I take it rather personally. And so, I was like, you know what, I'm going to put 4 weeks of hard training in here and we're going to do something special to make people forget about that Milrose performance.
Yeah, and I think that's why you're such an interesting character as well, is that not only are you, a great athlete, 329, bronze medalist at the Olympics, awesome college runner. I feel like you, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, it's like I feel like you do always run with a bit of a motive and like almost like a bit of a chip on the shoulder. And I think that some people could think that's a negative thing, but I think that's an incredibly positive thing. So is that something that's just come out recently, or is that something that you've always had throughout as a junior?
I think I've had a little bit more of the spotlight recently, so people have kind of noticed me a little bit more. But to be honest, I feel like I've had it my whole life, where it's like, this sport, you're not handed anything. You're not able to hide like you are in other team sports, on a rugby field, on a football field, something like that, where, your performance is solely up to you. And so I feel like when I'm out racing, I'm always proving how good I am, because you can be the man. Like Donovan Brazier was the man in 2019, and then he doesn't make the Olympic team in 2021, and so people kind of forget how good he is just because of one bad performance. So I feel like you continually have to prove how good you are to keep the audience. And so I always, whenever I race, I never take it for granted. I know that people are watching and people expect a hard, fast race and a bit of a show. So yeah, I feel like I bring that, but it's also, it's difficult. It's probably why I race less than most.
Yeah, I think, and you said a good point as well there, that you don't want to be, you always want to be proving and always wanted to be getting it better, and that's your way of dealing with that. And I think it also goes to show like the type of athlete, like say a Farah or a Century, it's people who have been at that level for so long. There's a reason why they do that, and maybe they have that as well. And just quickly before we get into the rest of the conversation, what was the main reasoning for not wanting to go to World Indoors?
So I think for me, I haven't won Worlds, I haven't medaled at Worlds outdoors, and I really feel like those are the kind of moments that I'm looking for. I really couldn't care less about a World Indoor medal. Everyone's different and everyone has their own career paths. And that's completely fine. Like, I'm not judging anyone that has a world indoor medal or that wants to go to indoor worlds, but the way that my body works and the way that my motivation works is, outdoor medals are superior. So why go for indoor ones? So yeah, I'm not someone that can peak like 4 or 5 times a year and run these crazy times consistently week in, week out. I'm someone that needs to take some time and build up to a race and really have some motivation and focus on it. So for me, it was just like, it's bad timing, March, middle of March. So I'm taking a bit more of a downtime before we ramp up for an outdoor 5K. And so if I ran in March and then took some downtime, and then I'm just a little bit behind. My body fluctuates quite a lot in the way it trains. My downtime's pretty down and my on time's pretty on. So yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to watching. I love that kind of competition, but it just wasn't really for me this year. And I really value outdoor worlds, and that's my big focus of the year.
Yeah, and although you said you're looking forward to watching, would you say that you're a fan of Ollie Hoare, or is he a rival that you hate?
That's the thing, is there's some beef getting started on the internet, and I do like to be involved in that. The thing is, from gun to tape, we are arch enemies. You know what I mean? We're gonna go at it, and there's lots on the line for us, because I feel like we're reasonably similar athletes in the way that we attack races. And I would like to be the one on top, and he wants to be the one on top. But outside of race day, I do think that we actually we get along. Well, we do get along quite well. But that's what fuels that fire a little bit more of I think he wants to be on top, I want to be on top. And I do enjoy that competition. I also there's a lot of really nice people in this sport, and so it's difficult to have enemies. So you really try and find them. But yeah, he's not one off the track, but on the track, we'll produce some pretty awesome races outdoors.
Yeah, no, I figured that. I could, even though it's not like I've asked you both necessarily, but even though you kind of see that bit of tension, a bit of rivalry, I was fully aware that you guys would be friends off the track. But as well as that, you guys have competed each other and had some pretty epic NCAA performances together. So it's good viewing. And you guys are only 24, so chances are you're probably going to be doing this for another 2 Olympic cycles or something like that.
That's the goal. That's a big goal.
Yeah, hopefully I can get myself into one of them, but we'll see. So yeah, just before I get into Josh Kerr, the pro athlete, I wouldn't mind just getting to know a little bit about Josh Kerr, kind of the junior. So you were based in Glasgow, was it? And you had a junior coach. So can you just tell me a little bit about your time leading up until, let's say, 2015?
Yeah, so I got in the sport. So I grew up in Edinburgh. My coach, who coached me through probably the year of 2015 and to Euro Juniors, was from Glasgow. So he kind of coached me from afar. Yeah. And so, I grew up and trained in Edinburgh, and that's kind of, I went through 2 coaches in Edinburgh, and then I got the coach in Glasgow that coached me through until I got to be a Lobo out here in University of New Mexico. So yeah, it was just learning. My parents weren't professional runners. My dad was a professional rugby player, but so he knew what it took to be a professional sports person. But we were all kind of learning together of what does an athlete need, and what do you do on a daily basis to be kind of that best athlete and take that next step in your career. So growing up, it was always research, speaking to people who've done it before, and we're lucky enough at Edinburgh AC to be surrounded by a lot of really successful athletes. So the questions were always being able to get answered at that club, and you could always see where that next step was, even on a Tuesday, Thursday when we're down at the track. So yeah, we're very lucky in that way. Yeah.
And I think the coolest thing about Edinburgh was you obviously ran and still do run for Edinburgh Athletic Club. You were able to go to the 2017 World Championships, and all 3 were Scottish athletes from the same athletics club. I know that you did a fair bit of running with Chris O'Hare in the juniors, and you were in the same running group. Did you cross over much with Jake Whiteman?
So we never trained together. We were in different training groups, but he was, I don't know, I think he's 3 years older than me. And so I would watch his progress. We actually did myself, my brother, and him, we did a relay, a cross country relay when we were younger. And it was I think it was under 13 does a loop and then passed it to the under 15 was my brother, and then the under 17, which was, Whiteman. So that was a lot of fun. So we have some fun photos from that. And that was, way back when. But we never trained together, but it was always, we know who he was. And if questions needed to be asked, he was obviously the 2013 Euro Junior champ. And so the coach that I had, who was based in Glasgow, was, reached out to, Jeff Whiteman, Jake's dad, and asked them like a million questions. And we were able to get on a phone call with him, and we were just picking the brains, and massively helpful in, growing up at Edinburgh AC and having someone like that who's been there, done that, to kind of help us guide the way.
Yeah, great foundations. And it does seem like British athletics seem to have very good under 20 1500 meter runners. Like, I think from 2013 to 2019 has pretty much all been British athletes who have won under 20 championships. So it's good to have people around you that are setting up the future. Obviously, the tail end of your junior career, you won the European Championships in 2015, and then I'm assuming you started college not long after that. Just run me through the process of starting at New Mexico, why you started at New Mexico, and did that success at all help with, getting a start at a college? Did it make your time easier or anything like that?
So I got recruited there when I was 16. So I was emailing all sorts of universities, because I left school at 17, and Scotland were like a year less than England and the US. I'm not sure what it's like in Australia, but yeah, I left at 17. So when I was looking at universities, I was like, 16. I'd ran 3:52 for the 1500, and I was emailing all these universities, and they were like, "Oh, that's great for a 16-year-old, but you're going to be racing 20-year-olds who have ran mid 340s, low 340s. So take another year and let us know how you get on, kind of thing." And the University of New Mexico emailed me back saying, "You know what, like, we'll take you on, kind of thing, and we'll give you a full ride, and let's have a little Skype call or something like that." And we did the Skype call. They were like, "Yeah, we want you to get here start of August." I was like, perfect. And then that summer I went on to run 344 and win Euro Juniors. And so they were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's a pretty solid shout," because I'd already signed with them at that point. And then I'm seeing on my lap of honor, I'm seeing all these Euro Juniors, all these American coaches who didn't recruit me. And like, I was just kind of laughing, and it was like Oklahoma State, like all these like Oregon, all these universities that like turned me down. And I was just like kind of giggling. So that was great. So that's why I went to University of Mexico. It was my only option, my only offer, and ended up being obviously a fantastic opportunity for me. I come out, and it takes a while to settle into universities anywhere, but obviously across the pond it's a little bit more difficult. You're moving from your parents and things like that. So it took me about a semester to settle in and really know what it was like to train and kind of be the one pushing everything, like going to class, going to training, making sure everything's right with the diet and things. So yeah, it took me about a semester, and then my second semester, my freshman year, I was able to work it out a little bit better, and I was settled in pretty well from there.
Yeah. So you got through that kind of the tail end of 2015. I think you skipped indoors in 2016, but you had a bit more international kind of taste in 2016. So from memory, you made the NCAA finals in 2016, and then you went to World Juniors. What was that first real World Championship taste like for you, and what did you get out of that kind of leading into 2017?
It's just such a big step up. Like, as a junior, I've always asked athletes, like, how do you step up from junior to senior? And even that question makes sense from like, how do you step up from Euro Juniors to World Juniors? Because you're now against, obviously the whole world, but you're against, these Kenyans and Ethiopians and, East Africans that all run insane times versus, like, I think I'd ran 330 or 341 or something. I think the qualifying time was 43 or 42. And, I think the guy that won it had ran like 332 or 333. And I was just like, I'm so at my depth here. And so it is difficult to kind of ease yourself into it. And when you've ran good times for, a European, but when it comes to the world stage, it was really difficult. But again, I jumped in with 2 feet, made the final. I think I was 10th. Wasn't my best performance, but I think I psyched myself out beforehand, just being like, these guys are so amazing. And I didn't run it the way I should have done. But it's a difficult situation to be in, but it's something that you just got to rip that Band-Aid off, and you just got to realize that everyone has to do it. And then, you've not got any age group or any other kind of category that's going to stop you racing everyone in the world. So you got to get running fast and be really aggressive. And that's kind of where that came from. I feel like I was naive, but I was also a little bit worried going into races. And so I was like, you know what, worst comes to worst, let's just go hard and see what happens. I think that's kind of where that breakthrough happened, where I realized that I didn't care who anyone was. I was going to race my own game plan and I was going to stick to it no matter what. And then I found some success from there.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that is that obviously you're an incredibly talented junior, you know, with how 2015 and 2016 went. But I think, you know, from the outset, you know, even myself, I feel like you kind of got on everyone's radar in the indoor season of 2017. And you, in the indoors in 2017, you'd beaten kind of the unbeatable Ed Cheserek at the indoor championships. Although you'd taken out that success, although you kind of had that mindset that you were going to run the way that you wanted to, you weren't going to let anyone get in your way. Was there anything that necessarily changed in training in that cross country or base phase at the tail of 2016 to set up the start of 2017?
Yeah, I think so. So I took cross off at the end of 2016 because I came back from World Outdoors Juniors in 2016, and I was just like, I was pooped, man. I needed a little bit of a break. And then I actually, we recruited one of my really good friends from Scotland that year. And he had to, you know, sit out a year. It was like some sort of red shirt because he had already used up some eligibility. So he came over and, you know, we were living together and we were training every day. And he's like hard as nails, like so difficult to break. And so we were just, you know, working out every day together. We were pushing each other to the limit, and I didn't have to race. And so we were enjoying our time at university at the same time. So it was like, work hard, play hard a little bit for that semester through the end of 2016. And so, you know, I gained this amazing base that I was able to work off for the start of 2017 when I kind of had that breakthrough year. And so I was just like, yeah, this is how I did it. So looking back, that was a big reason why I was so strong that year. It was I took cross off, and also one of my best mates came and pushed me to the absolute limits every day.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily specifically, you know, implementing certain training or anything like that. It was just more the fact that you just had a mindset that you were going to train hard, and you also had someone just kicking you up the arse every session.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it goes. Like, everyone knows training solo is really difficult, but also having someone who, you know, he was really good at my weaknesses, which was like longer tempos and longer track sessions. And that's pretty much what you're doing through, you know, September, October, November, December. So he was better at that stuff, and I hated losing to him. So we would really go back and forth. And so, yeah, that was a really fun time, actually. I did enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah, so 2017, I feel like that was your breakthrough year, both indoors and outdoors. Going into that 2017 mile, going up against, you know, the most successful collegiate athlete ever in Ed Cheserek, and looked like he was going to be unbeatable. I think he had a 3:52 indoor mile PB, potentially the NCAA record at the time. What was the mindset going into that race, and what was the tactics?
So, yeah, I remember that race so well because, yeah, every part of that like trip, I just remember really well. So the tactics was to go with 600 to go. We ran the prelim and it felt good. And then I had to make the decision to run the DMR or not. I chose not to because I thought I had a good chance, even though it made no sense. I was like, I felt really good. I've got a good chance. And then, yeah, we decided to go with 600 to go in the race and push really hard from a far way out because we knew that Ches had already ran like a couple races. So I was like, the only way to beat him is to break him early and make him work super hard. And so we weren't running all that fast, and I was going to go with 600 to go. I think he takes it on with 600 to go. And so I was just like kind of poised, ready to really push. He slowed down at like 450 meters to go. And I was like, you know, again, I'm not going to let you settle again. It's, you know, I'm going to push you to the limit here kind of thing. And so I pushed as hard as I could. And I just didn't look back. I was like, you know, if I'm ever going to break someone, it's right now. So I just threw everything at it. I was fresh, and I was just really confident. I was naive, Obviously coming off that World Juniors, I was a bit pissed off. I was like, I felt like I ran like a bit of a pussy. And so I was like, I'm going to do the complete opposite. I'm just going to run like an absolute nutter and let's just see what happens. And obviously it comes off pretty well for me.
Yeah, I still remember watching that race. And like I said, it was probably, I'd watched you at the World Juniors in under 20, but watching that indoor race, I'm just like, yeah, this guy's legit. Which kind of led on. One of your first races in the outdoor season, you'd opened up with a 3:35.99, and then it set up your outdoor season. So, what was it? Just a similar mindset going into the NCAA outdoors? Did you just go in just thinking, you know what, I'm just gonna try beat everyone here, or was it were you trying to race a specific person? Because I feel like 2016 and 2017, that was kind of the arrival of Craig Engels. And I felt like leading into that 2017 season, it was just going to be, this is going to be Craig Engels to take out. He's going to become pro and then he's going to be the next best miler. But it seemed like Josh Kerr just wanted to do everything and ruin the Engels show.
I'm just trying to ruin as many professional careers as possible. Look, that's the way it goes. No, to be honest, I won indoors, and the only reason I came to the US was to get a professional contract. That's like the only reason I'm here. I was like, I want to run for my career, and so whatever I can do to make that happen, let's do it. And I got that stage. I stole it off Ches for that 4 minutes, and I had an opportunity to build off that. So I was like, there's my stage. Let's show everyone who you are for the next, couple of years, however long it takes for someone to offer me something. And so the mindset was, I can't lose in college now. Like I have to be number one. And so whoever the next person is that's going to come and challenge, like they can't beat me, because this is what I've wanted to do for my whole life. And so, yeah, the pressure was on. I put it on myself, but I also didn't really know anyone. I'm not a big researcher into like people's stats. And so when we ran that race at Azusa to run 35.9, I didn't know who Craig Engels was. I legitimately, he was a big name in college, but I didn't research anyone. I thought that, Ches was the man, and then he pulled out. And so of that Azusa race. And so I was like, oh, okay, like, I guess I'm just racing everyone else I've already raced. And because he ended up running the DMR indoors. So I didn't know, like, cause he said he broke his collarbone or something over Christmas. So that's what ended up happening. And, we were just trying to go out and try and run the world standard. So, we were able to do that by the absolute skin of my teeth. But that was just a big naive thing. I had no idea who he was. And so I wasn't really worried about him because, that's just the way it works.
Yeah. And that year as well, you'd obviously, you beat Engels and you'd won the outdoor 1500 title and also the indoor title. You used that momentum, went back to the British champs, qualified for the team, and then you ran at the World Championships. I'd say you probably have this mindset as well. 2017 World Champs was probably not as successful as you would have liked. You got knocked out in the heats. Similar to 2016, what was the main takeaway from that 2017 World Championships?
It was a big experience again, and I hate to say that because it wasn't why I was there. I wasn't there to like learn as much as possible. I was there to, make a final and try and compete for, in front of a British crowd. And so it was a really low moment in my career, seeing the result. But again, it's the same thing with World Juniors. Like I got there and I got beaten. And so I got to London and I got beaten. And so it was just like, okay, what did I learn from this? What can I do better? Like I'm never doing that again. Like I'm never getting knocked out like that again. It was really embarrassing. And so, it was just knowing that, being on a 4-week camp in Font-Romeu with, everyone locked into their own training is really fucking boring. And I don't want to do it again. And I don't enjoy that training. I enjoy, being surrounded by my teammates, being with my missus and being in Albuquerque where I know all the trails and, they have fantastic facilities. And I was like, okay, I'm never going to Font-Romeu again because I feel like I wasn't in the best frame of mind after that, which isn't, everyone's so different. Like some people love Font, but I just wasn't used to it. I'd never been on a British athletics camp before. And it just didn't work for me. So I just had to say to them, look, guys, when this happens next time, I can't do that. And they're very accommodating. British Athletics are like, whatever you need to do, like, you just let us know and we'll try and help out. And so they've been great with that. But that was a big thing I learned was, there was like no Wi-Fi. I didn't bring my computer. So I was just sitting there in my bed all day, like just waiting for the session. When the session was done, I was like, I have nothing to do for the rest of the day. And so that was really boring because I normally have, I lived with, 3 of my best mates in college, and we were like chilling all day, or like we were going out and doing stuff, and everyone else was like napping and things like that. And so it was just boring for me. And so I looked about who I was for pre-camp, and I've never gone on a British Athletics pre-camp again. And so, yeah, that was like a big thing I learned. And then it was just about, not getting psyched out by big names. It's very easy to know when, the qualifying round that I was in was insane. I look back at it now and I was like, I still don't think I'd be able to get out of that freaking like round. I think I had like 3 Olympic champs in one race. I think we had McLuffy, Kiprop, I had Nick Willis in there, and I had Centro. And so I was just like, what am I going to do? And so I psyched myself out a little bit there, but that was about it really. Yeah. I did enjoy it. It was a fun champs, but yeah, wasn't my finest performance.
Yeah, it was a great championships, to be fair. But yeah, obviously a lot to take out, and it really is. You really do throw yourself in the deep end when your first major championships. You're looking to your left and your right, and you're up against Olympic champions. I still remember running in Tokyo. I was going pretty terrible at the time, but I'm just thinking, this is not going to go my own way here, but hopefully I take something out of it. I feel like the typical way to turn pro is to win a couple of NCAA championships, and then you usually make a British, a USA team. Was there any talk after World Champs or even after NCAA outdoors that year that you were potentially going to transition into a pro? And if there was, why didn't you end up taking that and end up pushing it out till a year later?
So I didn't so Danny was at London 2017 because I think Katie was there and Drew was there as well. Obviously, they were Brooks athletes at the time. And so Danny was there, and I think my college coach, Joe, who flew over for London, I think they went on a night out after I got knocked out. And so like the relationship was very much like they knew each other well, and I'm sure the questions were asked at that point. But I think Joe wanted to keep me for a little bit longer, which made sense. I don't think I was really fully developed quite yet, but those conversations started at the start of 2018. I think I got note that they wanted to offer me a contract January of 2018. They said that they were going to offer me at the end of the year. And so that was a long process for Brooks to, let me know their interest. And, obviously we're not allowed to know numbers or like speak to agents or anything like that. But they knew that if they were going to, help me come out of my NCAA team, that they would have had to, offer me a good enough contract to say, I'm going to forgo the next 2 years of my eligibility. And so that's kind of how it started, was the start of 2018. And so, yeah, that 2017 was probably the one that showed everyone that I was ready to come out of college and start a professional career.
Yeah. And yeah, it obviously ended up being not necessarily a gamble, but a great decision. It worked out to be very good post NCAA's 2018. Before getting into the 2018 season, I feel like obviously 2017 was such a great year, and so was 2018. Can you just run me through a typical week of training, say in a base season, and then also leading up, in the months leading up to a championship? And the reason why I'm asking that now is because I know, being an international athlete coming all the way to States, it does take a year or two to adjust. So obviously by, the tail end of 2017 to 2018, you're a bit more set up, you're comfortable with your environment. So what was it like for Josh Kerr as 21, 22, being as a New Mexico student?
So yeah, the thing is with New Mexico is I was on quite low mileage, but we do really hard strength sessions. So, for winter training, Tuesdays were, a bit of a track session. We'd maybe do 8 by a K, or we'd do 800 reps or something like that. We're at 5,000 feet here, so we were probably around about that 3-minute mark and just racking those off. And then Fridays we would do these long 10-mile tempos. I think the fastest 10-mile tempo I did in college was, I think, 5:07s. And so at altitude, I was really, really happy with that. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Even as a pro, I haven't done any harder than that. And so in between that, Mondays, we would run probably 8 miles. I don't know how many miles we'd get on a Tuesday, maybe 8 or 9. Wednesday, I would run 6. Thursday, I would run 8 again. Friday, we'd probably get 12 with warm up and warm down in the long session. Saturday, I'd take off, and Sunday, I'd normally run 12 miles. So I'd probably be around about that 50-mile mark for most of my college career. I started off at 30 or 35 when I first came. And so that was a bit of a jump for me to jump up to 50. And because I never really counted mileage before getting to college. But yeah, that would be typical. We'd be in the gym Tuesday, Friday, but we wouldn't be doing much. It was normally after a hard session and everyone was kind of clocked out at that point. And so it was just mostly maintain work.
Yep. Okay. So nothing specific, just more that you were just getting consistent mileage. I think the biggest surprise is that I feel like a lot of your races are based on that strength. So the fact that you're, able to be such a strength runner, only doing 50 miles, I think is pretty impressive. And yeah, I'm assuming that now it's probably similar, but we'll get into that, post-college talk. I think another thing which really stood out for me at the end of 2017 and the start of 2018 was that you were a lot more outspoken, and obviously you had the runs on the board. You'd gone to the World Championships. You'd had 2 NCAA championships. You'd ran 3:35.9 at Azusa. So you had the runs on the board. But I feel like a lot of people in athletics, specifically middle distance to distance, they try to sway away from being outspoken. They try to sway away from saying, hey, I'm going to do X, I'm going to do Y, I'm going to go for the NCAA record. I feel like, leading into that 2018 season, you started to be a lot more on Flow Track or Let's Run or even interviews. Was there any reason that specifically changed the mindset? And was there any reason why you were more aligned saying, hey, I'm going to go out and, beat this person and run this record?
I think it came, Joe Franklin, the coach at UNM, still the coach at UNM now, he realized that having a higher profile is going to get a higher paycheck at the end of your career. And so it was he was the one pushing the Flow Track stuff and, bringing those guys along and kind of helping me build that profile a little bit. And then it just came with, just having a bit of fun. Like I really enjoy racing at high stakes. Like that's, I won't really race a lot of races that are boring to me. If they're boring, like if I go to a college meet like last week where it's BU, I'm gonna try and put some more pressure on myself because it doesn't motivate me to go out and run like a mediocre race. I would rather put a lot of things on the line and then say I'm going to do something and then try and do it because it is difficult. But to be honest, it was just like the more people who know who I am, the higher the paycheck's going to be, and I felt like we were on a bit of a roll, and everyone knows that. Like once you have some really good performances and you really get into your rhythm with racing, it's kind of easier to know that the big performances are going to continue to come rather than having a couple of bad ones and then you get a bit more nervous. But yeah, I think it was just like, let's have some fun and let's call some people out. And I feel like I was reasonably dominant in the NCAA at that point. And so I was really happy with where I was at. I was like, the more attention I get, the more money hopefully I'm going to get offered at the end of this career.
Yeah, it was literally so they were pretty much business decisions.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, mate. But no, there's obviously a lot more on the line, and I get in trouble a little bit from people like coaches and family members to say, you're putting too much pressure on yourself. But I think it just makes it, we entertain, like we are entertainment at the end of the day. And if you're watching me race and I run like 3:45 and just win it with like, a last 400-meter kick, that's not entertainment. Like I don't think that's really fun to watch. And so if we're asking all these people to pay Flow Track subscriptions and pay these, all this money to watch us race, then we've got to put a show on, and that's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. 2018, you started off the year with an NCAA championship in the indoor mile. But I think what's more impressive of that championship was in that year, you ran the DMR between the heats of the mile and the final. And I remember watching that DMR, and I think you got the baton in maybe third or fourth, or close to the front. And I was thinking, oh, awesome. Josh Kerr is just going to go and dominate these guys. I'm just going to be honest, you ran so poorly. I think you finished in like a 4:10 mile or something like that to the DMR. And I just thought, oh no, like he's going to be absolutely cooked for the mile final. He ended up coming out and dominating the NCAA mile in the final. What was like? How were you able to get that mindset? Were you able to run so poorly and then able to turn it around? Was it the same day or was it the next day?
It was the next day. Yeah, it was the next day of the mile final.
How were you able to change that mindset 24 hours apart?
I think if all of my NCAA in 2018, if all of my if there was a behind the scenes like documentary of that championships, it would be pretty insane. Like, so I feel really good. We go out and I win my mile prelim. And, I jog off and my coach goes, what do you want to do? And I was like, I'm going to run the DMR because I didn't run it the year before because I was, the goal was to beat Ches. And so I was like, you know what? Like, it's a pretty similar team and these guys have worked super hard to get here. Let's go out and try and win an NCAA title. And we were kind of going back and forth with, I was going to maybe run the 3K qualifying time a couple of weeks before. And then, so I spoke to my coach and I was like, do you think that's going to up my value if I try and win the 3K and the mile? And they said no. And he said no. And so I was like, okay, like what about the DMR? And he was like, yeah, that would up your value. So this is all in my head. Like, how can I get as much money as possible at the end of this year? Because I already had been told that I'm going to get offered a contract. So I was like, what do you think Brooks would want more? Like a mile on a DMR or a mile on a 3K? And they were like, mile DMR. I was like, okay, perfect. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to run the DMR. We went back to the hotel. And so we had like 2 hours in between the mile final and the DMR. And no one knows this. So like, I hope people who roast me on Let's Run actually find the truth out here. So I go back to the hotel. I eat a bunch of food for no reason. I ignore my tech. And then I come back to the track because they know that if they know that I'm running the last leg, some of the teams might rest their best milers for the next day. And so I just got out there to like make sure that they didn't know. And so everyone put their teams in. I come back. I don't really warm up all that much because I was already kind of warmed up. I jogged at the hotel, so no one knew that I was getting ready. And so I come back, get ready to run the DMR. And so in the first 2 laps, I start cramping in my stomach. Yeah, and you could probably see in the video. I haven't watched the video back because it's the most embarrassing thing ever.
Now, bad races for me don't exist on YouTube ever.
Yeah, I mean they've got to be deleted at some point. That's the goal. Yeah. I was like, I had the baton in my right hand, and so it would have been my left side that was sore. And so I looked at my coach, and he was like 50 meters away from the start line, and I was just tapping my stomach, and I was just like this. I was like, no, like this is not going well, and I'm just cramping up. And so I'm like tightening up and I was like, no, just like breathe through it. And then I'm just tightening up and I feel like complete shit. And so I ran as hard as I could have. And I ran 4:10 and I become last. So my teammates are all pissed off at me. They're like, what happened? And I was like, I told them what happened. And what happened next? Yeah. So I leave and then I'm getting a bunch of treatment and they say I've strained my oblique. Right. And so I've now strained my oblique. And so I go home. I then get a bunch more treatment. I get up the next morning and my coach's like, how is it? And I was like, this is horrible. So I go for like a shakeout and then we're like, I come back. I'm like, I'm not doing the mile final. Like I can't do it. And so they like nearly pull me out at the mile final. And then he's like, no, I'm not pulling you out. Like, just go and try. Like if it happens again, it happens again. And I was like, all right, fine. So he takes me and he jogs me in my warm up and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And he's like, just do some drills. And so I do some drills and it like gets a little bit better. And then so he's like walking with me to like walk to pretty much pull out the mile final. And then we're like getting close to the call room and he just kind of like pushes me in. And so I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like pretty much like, yeah, Josh, you're running the mile final. Like I mean, worse comes to worse, you embarrass yourself in front of like all the people who want to pay you in, 3-4 months time. I was like, you dick. And so I was really angry. And so I don't know, at the end of the race, you can see me. I'm still fucking so angry at my coach.
You're literally like,
so I'm just staring at the camera like this. And so, yeah, it was like everyone was telling me that I gave up. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, I would never give up on my teammates. I chose to do it. I didn't have to do it. Like the guy who was there to be my substitute in the mile. And so I get really upset when people say that I gave up, because like any teammate who's had me knows that I would never do that. And so, yeah, I strained my oblique. I don't know what the hell that means, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know you'd strain your oblique. I didn't know any of that backstory. But one thing I definitely knew was that you didn't give up.
No.
But even still, like, I just assumed that something was wrong or you were just cooked from the heat. But regardless, you came back the next day and ended up dominating the mile. So, I mean, it's the kind of joke's on everyone else. Obviously, not the DMR success that you would have wanted, but it is what it is.
I'm just going to get roasted for DMRs for the rest of my life, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. That works.
All right, so 2018 outdoors, one of your first races, I think at Azusa again, you broke the NCAA 1500-meter record, 3:35. Was it 3:35? Yeah.
35:01 or 02 or something.
35:01, and then at NCAA outdoors, just beforehand, you infamously said that you were going to break the NCAA record again in the final, or maybe even the heat.
I said that after the heat, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And maybe this was the start of the rivalry, but that was where Ollie Hoare beat you in the NCAA finals and kind of put Ollie on the radar. And, don't want to, gloss over too quickly, but obviously after NCAAs, I think you finished third, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, third at Oregon. And then the talk was, Josh Kerr going pro. And I don't think it's too much of a secret, but your contract with Brooks ended up being, I think, one of the biggest collegiate athlete contracts going pro. And yeah, like I said, I don't think I'm breaking any secrets there. I think it was pretty well reported and well known at the time. And, obviously you've got an NDA, so I'm not asking numbers or anything like that. But when you went pro, I think even myself personally, and I think other people around, I think that going to Brooks was, I just didn't expect you to sign with Brooks. And when I heard that you'd gone with Brooks, I was like, okay, that's not what I expected at all. I just expected the typical Nike to Bauman, Nike to Oregon project or something like that. A lot of the conversations that we've been having has pretty much been around money. Was money your only decision in going in the group that you went to? And what other groups were you speaking to or were you keen on coming out of college? And then, sorry, 3 different questions. And then why was it Danny in the end?
So I think, I was able to obviously get Brooks offered me a great contract. I think in terms of international students coming out of a US college, it was big, but like compared to, all these crazy Americans coming out of college, like they obviously got bigger contracts than myself. But to be honest, I got offered similar numbers, I think, from different companies. But it was, the contract was written.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. They offer the contract that they probably wrote in January. And so they know who I am. It didn't change because I was third at NCAAs, and they know what kind of athlete I was. And that just wasn't my day. And, going back to the passing of the torch to Mr. Hoare, Ches gave it to me to rule the 1500 for a while, and I passed it on to Ollie for a little bit. And I think, Ollie then passes it to Geordie, and then Geordie passes it. So it's been, to Nagoose and Hawker and all sorts. So yeah, that's the kind of way it goes. And, when it comes to contracts, Brooks, they're a phenomenal brand. And, those conversations, they presented to my parents, what they wanted to do with me and the contract that they wanted to give me. And it was a very family orientated field. And they said, like, we're going to be your son's kind of route to success in Olympics, World Championships, and we're going to hold him to, a high standard. And that was the reason I went with them, was because like they're a running only brand. and they have a coach that was, first of all, hardworking. Second of all, knew how good I was, which is difficult, because in my head I was like, I can be Olympic champion, and it's when you're a 335 guy, it's difficult for sometimes coaches to see that future. But he saw a real good potential in me. And third, he's a clean cut a guy that I know I can trust my career with him. And so Danny was the reason that I signed with Brooks, and is continuing, obviously the same reason I'm still here. But it was just like the whole thing, like the way the company's oriented, the amount of athletes they have. Right now we've got 12, 13 athletes on the Brooks Beast team. We have an assistant coach. We have a full-time athletic trainer. We have a full-time nutritionist. Like it's a great setup, and the brand was just making moves. They have the best, the highest selling trainer in the US market right now in the Ghosts. And so we sell a great training shoe, and most recently we have one of the fastest spikes on the market. So everything just pointed towards it being a fruitful but also honest and hardworking career that I can go into, Brooks HQ, and everyone knows who I am. And that's not because of the amazing times I run or like big performances. They know every single beast, because they're just interested in the sport, and they love being a part. So we work with every different department. We have a meeting at the start of every year with every single department, and how we fit into the Brooks model. So it's difficult to get that small company feel, but also have the budget to make it a career that's pretty fruitful.
And with when you talked about budget there, do say for the people that are new to the group and say don't have a big contract or anything like that, if do Brooks usually look after a lot of travel and accommodation and physio and medical and all that stuff as well?
So every contract's different, but being part of the Brooks Beasts, you're obviously all of that's covered. That's the amazing thing is we I'm trying to see if I can walk a line here. We have very clear cut contracts where they have a lot of belief in their athletes. And so there was never a doubt of, through COVID, everyone kept their job, no one got cut. And I think that's just a very respectful way to work, knowing that you're pushing boundaries for a company that has had belief in you, and regardless of how you do, they're still going to pay you the same amount, which means it's amazing for us to stand on a start line about to make your first or one of your last big teams. That regardless of the outcome, you're still going to get respected by that company. And so, it's a very nice environment to be in. And I think it promotes amazing performances.
Yeah, absolutely. And just run me through the setup quickly. Like, so you've obviously gone through your relationship with Danny. It seems like it's a guy that you can trust your whole life with, trust your running career with. Run me just through what the team setup's like and the professionalism that the Brooks Beast brings as well.
Yeah, Danny's created a phenomenal team, and I'm very proud to be part of his team. Based out of Seattle, the HQ's there. We spend a lot of time in there, and mingling with the employees and working with the marketing department and working with Spikes, and so we meet 5 times a week, and then most of us meet the other 2 as well. Anyway, most of the team live together, everyone gets on, and so that's the kind of environment you're looking for progress and big performances. But it's a slow recruiting process. They're very specific. It's not a blanket approach with athletes. It's are you going to fit with the team, and then do you have the talent to be good enough on this team? And I think that way of recruiting really helps us create that team dynamic that we all really want, which is turn up every day at work and be happy to be there.
Yep. And with just say in a calendar year or an athletic season, what's the setup like with basing in Seattle, training camp, European? How does the whole year usually work in a season where you've got indoors and say an international major championship as well?
Yeah, so we start every year late September, start of October. So those September, October, November, December, and then start of January we're in Seattle for that 4 months, just over 4 months, and then we do our first camp normally in Albuquerque mid-January through USA indoors or British indoors or whatever that kind of date is. And so that date this year was at the end of Feb. Then we normally have 2 weeks of downtime where you can go and see family or, continue to train in Seattle or kind of go where you want really. But, obviously you have to be sensible, and we're still training. We're just kind of getting a bit of relaxed time from the team. We start up training again, was it March 13th? And so we're going to be in Seattle for probably a month. And then we're going to go to Albuquerque for the second camp. And then some people will stay there up until 2 weeks out from USA's, and some people will come down a little bit earlier. And now we have an assistant coach. It's a bit easier to be in 2 places at once for Danny. But yeah, I'll be in Albuquerque for the majority of time before British Champs. And then after that, it's about who makes the team, who doesn't. And then people will race maybe the European scene. And so everyone's kind of all over the place from there. And then we'll break it down from, mid-August to end of August. So we'll call it a season, and then about a month of chill time. And then we start up again. So that's normally how the year works.
Pro group can have such flexibility with running Europeans, like a European season, the American season, and then also having that flexibility to have an assistant coach. So you've got 2 eyes in 2 continents, at all times.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a quick one, which you kind of touched on there earlier, and I messaged your co-host, Dave Ribich, before this, and I said, is there anything that, anything that I can kind of talk on? And I expected that he was going to give me like some naughty secrets or a bit of skeletons in the closet type thing, but he actually said something really interesting, and you kind of touched on this as well when you were talking about your why you signed with Brooks, and it was a family cell approach, and I thought that it was really good because I feel like at times in my athletic career it's been similar. But what he said is that your why for athletics is very different. Although you do seem to be an athlete that, it's all about your personal success, your why is a lot more than that. Your why seems to be with you're running because of your family, because of your brother, because of your fiance. And I just thought that was really, I don't know, sentimental and just really nice, because realistically your family's been there since day dot. Now your fiance's with you every single day. Was there a time in your career where you started to run more for them, or has it always been something which has been instilled from you from day one?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think what Dave's trying to get at is like that medal last summer was not really for me. It was like payback, all the hard work that my parents did over the years, payback, the continued motivation that my brother gives me every day, that I'm paying back to him to make sure he's out the door every morning to, be the best athlete that he can, and to prove to, my fiance that I'm worth being around, and that I can create a life for us that is exciting, and that, we can, obviously over Christmas is when I proposed, but it was like, I can create a life for us that, you want to be a part of. And so, yeah, I don't really do it for myself. I do it for, all those moments that everyone else worked hard for. I'm just the end result. I'm just, if everyone does all these amazing things for me, it's almost a disservice not to give it everything that I've got to make sure that I'm that number one guy. And, someone's got to be the best in the world at this. Why not me? And so, yeah, I've been brought up to be a champion. And so anything less than that is a disservice to everyone else's hard work around me.
Yeah, it's I really like that story, is because obviously in 2017 I went back to being coached by my mum, and it was, even though my mum is a great coach, a lot of that preparation leading into Com Games, and then a lot of the preparation into 2019, I had my dad on the bike, I had my sister getting my 200 splits, mum coaching and getting my 400 splits. So it just felt like a team thing. So when Dave said that, I was like, wow, that's it's just awesome. And it was, I suppose, a little bit relatable. And I also like the idea, I listened to a podcast recently, that when you got your bronze medal, you took it back to Scotland, you went and saw every single one of your junior coaches, you did clinics with people, and yeah, I think that a lot of that, people might just see Josh Kerr as the professional athlete that's outspoken and confident, but they don't see the Josh Kerr that's running for someone else other than themselves, and then giving back to the athletics club.
Yeah, I think, it's important. It really is. Like, going back home was massively important. And because what my job is to bridge that gap between, every Tuesday and Thursday I'm out at Meadowbank running for Edinburgh AC, working really hard. And then I'm watching these Edinburgh AC athletes on a world stage doing really well, but there's no in between because none of us really train there. And so I'm trying to provide that middle step to be like, all you need to do is, be really thoughtful in your next steps, like the university that you choose, or if you don't go to university, what brand to choose and what you can do to be in our position. Because there's no point of us being there and pretending, just because we're wearing an Edinburgh AC vest, that everyone's then going to continue to get there. Our goal, I know that Jake Whiteman and Chris O'Hare was really good at this. It's like, how can we bridge that gap? Because Chris was the one that bridged the gap to get to university for me, and then bridged the gap to get to professional. And then I want to be able to bridge those gaps back for those athletes, because everyone works so hard, but no one really knows how to get there. And so, yeah, that was a fun time to go back and take that medal back. And we were there for hours. I was putting the medal on every kid, and they were loving it, and it was great. But it took a while, and it was just one of those things. It was like, I'm not going to stop doing this until someone doesn't want it. And I feel like that's our job. If we're going to continue to be proud of this club success that we have, let's keep giving back to that club that's given us that success.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really awesome to hear about that. Okay, so now we're into the pro year, and I don't want to gloss over too quickly 2018 and 2019, but 2018 you obviously had a bit of adjustment. You just joined the Brooks Beast, new city, new coach, new everything, but that obviously set up a really successful 2019. And 2019 you opened up, well, maybe not opened up, but you ran 3:35, I think in Birmingham in the world record race. And then leading up to 2019, I think you came second at the British Championships in, I think, an amazing British 1500 final. You did the typical Josh Kerr, going hard from a long way out, and somehow Neil Gurley won. But then obviously took that momentum into the World Championships. He ended up finishing sixth. And without glossing over too quick, I do want to talk about Doha. Because Doha was an amazing 1500 meter final. You had Timothy Chariot, run 3:29 to win. I thought Jacob was going to run away with a medal. But what I thought was amazing was you had three British athletes in the final. You came sixth in 3:32, which is incredible. I think you dropped your PB down from 3:34 to 3:32 in that race. Is that right?
I think I ran 33 that in May or June or something. Okay. At that Brooks PR, but yeah.
That's Seattle. Yep. Sorry. So yeah, you ran 3:32 in a major championships final, which is just incredible. And the fact that 3:32 gets you sixth is mind blowing. Oh, maybe not considering when you look at Tokyo, but at the time I was just thought that was ridiculous. The one thing I took out of that, which I thought was, I wasn't quite sure what to make of it at the time. I was just like, wow, maybe he's just saying that for the sake of it, was that when you pretty much said almost after that Doha race that you were disappointed that you came sixth, and you were disappointed that you didn't get a medal, because there was a moment on the back straight in the last lap where you said, okay, a medal's mine here. How, I don't know. It's like, I just find it amazing that you've got such this amazing high standard that you set yourself.
Yeah, man, I respect my time very much, and I hate losing. That's the thing, is there was two things that happened there. Was first of all, when you're sixth in a world championship final, you get nada. You get no medal. You get $2,000 from world IWF, and you walk off thinking, what the hell just happened? I feel like that was a good performance, but I'm gaining nothing from this, really, from my career. So yeah, it was a big moment where, okay, I was like, yeah, that's much better than it was in 17. But this isn't what I'm here for. I'm not here for sixth. No one remembers sixth place at a world championship when someone's just ran away from it and kind of embarrassed us all a little bit. Chariot ran so well that day, and it was two different races. And so, it was, I'm not here to be sixth place. I work hard like everyone else does. I'm not saying I work crazy harder than everyone else, even though everyone pretends that they work harder than everyone else. We all probably work very similar amounts. And I came out with six, and I was just like, I didn't spend my whole career and move halfway across the world to not see my family on a weekly basis just to come sixth. And so I was like, you know, there was a moment there where I felt like I had that medal, and I told myself I would never have that moment again and not have a response. So I worked on that really hard. And that's what you saw in 2021, was that the difference between those 2 years was I worked on that exact moment, that it would never happen again. And so that's what I took back from that major champs was, you know what, like, this is where I need to get better. And that's specifically what we're going to work on for 2 years. And I was able to prove that in 2021.
Yeah, and you spoke about that moment in where you didn't want to let the medal get away from you. One thing I did notice, which you opened up the outdoor season in 2019 with, I think, a 13:28 5K. And then one of your first races in 2021 was a 13:23, I think it was, for the 5K. Yeah. Was there more of an emphasis on that aerobic engine leading into the Tokyo year?
Yeah. So we had that off year, obviously, in 2020, the COVID year. And so we just worked massively on strength. And you know, that was like, it was like a whole year to practice our weaknesses. And so again, I wasn't injured. I just worked every day with one of my teammates, Henry and Danny. And we just like, that's what we're going to work on the whole time. And let's make the 5K better. And, you know, it didn't get much better. And I hope to you know, take a chunk off that this year, but the 5K is hard. And I knew if I could get better at it, then I would be better at the 15. But I only do one a year. So whatever I run as my opener in like 6-8 weeks time, that's going to be the definition of my 5K that year. So yeah, I do enjoy it, but that's what helps that last kind of 250, maybe even 400.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I don't want to set your ceiling too low, but 13:23 for a 5K is pretty bloody good. I reckon maybe for your next 5K, go and run at a BU, because I think Ollie just ran, 13:07 there. So you might be a sub 13 BU.
I can't wait for him to, like, I'm sure he'll roast me for running it at BU. And then, like, he obviously ran that 5K at BU, so I don't think he can try. But I think he'll forget that he ran his 5K PB at BU if he's going to roast me for that. But yeah, good laugh.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I feel like pretty much the goal, you know, tail end of 2019 and then the fourth year off of 2020 was to really emphasize that last and that strength, and being able to do that in your third 1500 at a major championship. So yeah, set the year up great with a 13:23 in 2021. Also, just quickly touching on 2020, I think one of my favorite Instagrams of that year was, because I don't think you'd run at all in 2020, and then you ran one of those big friendlies or one of those races in Portland, and you ran 3:34 and you dominated everyone in the field, and you just said something like, "Oh, I hope you haven't forgotten about me," or something like that, which I thought was really cool. Sorry, that's just me being a bit of a fanboy. So yeah, just back into 2021. I think away from the major championships, the big thing of that year was that you were really outspoken in saying that you wanted to break the American soil record of, I think it was 3:31 or 3:32 at the time, but you ended up running 3:31. Did you feel going into that race that you had a bit of a target in your back? And like, how are you so outspoken in saying I'm going to run 3:31 and then be on the start line and actually just go out and do it? Like, I know that in college you kind of have that idea that it's all about, you know, upping my contract, but now it's like, okay, I'm a professional athlete now, and I'm doing this because I want to win gold medals. How's the mindset different saying that as a collegiate athlete to now being a professional athlete?
Yeah, it's all about putting pressure on yourself, man. It's like, it's the same reason I could show up on August 7th in 2021, like on that exact day and that exact moment, is there's no shying away when you come out and say that you're going to do this. There's no like, oh, I might not do it today because like it's a bit windy, or like, oh, I feel a bit bad, or I've got a stomach ache, or I had a bad night's sleep. It's like, it's the same reason that I believe in British 1500 meter running. If you're in the top three after the championships and you have the qualifying time, you should automatically go to the major championships. I don't think we should ever take a fourth place, a fifth place, a sixth place, whatever it is, because you're turning up on the right day. And this is what the sport's all about. And so as long is I continue to practice turning up on the right day and putting a bunch of pressure on myself and be able to handle it and know what it's like coming August 7th to, one of a career defining moment for me at the Olympics. Like, it's just another race for me. There's no extra pressure that, I'm putting on myself, because this is the same amount of pressure I put on myself all the time. I set myself up to get embarrassed a lot, but I'm able to kind of wheeze my way out of things, because I knew I was ready to run 3:30 or 3:31. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I think we can run the soil record. And, I love poking the bear, the old USA milers, having fun with that. And so I was like, this would be a real cherry on top if I can just steal their own soil record, which I think Seb Coe had. So another Brit had. It just kind of, it fuels the banter I can continue to throw at them. And, it's the same with BU. Like, now that the British and European record's faster than the US mile record. So I can continue to talk shit. That's all it is. I'm just running these times so I can continue to talk shit with these milers. And yeah, that's all part of the fun. And, it motivates me to go out and not lose to Americans and not get my soil record taken off me. But that's just the way I like to do it. I like to keep it entertaining for everyone.
Yeah. No, I remember just getting the results, because it's hard to watch American races from out of the States. Like, I honestly couldn't tell you how to watch that race live. I think even on Flow Track, they've got you need to have a proxy to be in the States as well. So I remember seeing that and just thinking, yeah, that's just Josh Kerr just going out and doing exactly what he says he was going to do. All right, so we get to Tokyo. You win the British Championship first. I think it was your first ever British outdoor title. Beat Jack Whiteman in an awesome race in Manchester, I think it was. And then you go to Tokyo. So I think that the most interesting thing about Tokyo was that you'd ran 3:31 going into it. You had won the British Championships. Everything looked like you were just going to cruise your way through to the final. But in the heats of that race, you ended up finishing, I think it was 7th and 8th, and you ended up being a little kid into the final. So one, what do you think? I'd say Josh Kerr normally would want to come first or second in the heat. What would you say went wrong? And I'd say wrong in, quotations. But then also at the same time, what did you do between that heat and semi to then say, to put that behind you and then come out? And I think you ended up finishing third in your semi and looking comfortable.
I've answered this question enough where I know exactly what to say. It was by design, you see, Luke. So Danny tells me afterwards that he knew I was going to feel like shit in the first round, but the goal was because you can't feel amazing every round. Everyone has a round where they're like, oh, that didn't feel great. And your goal is for it not to be in the final. But because we knew I was in great shape, as long as I didn't make crazy amounts of mistakes, I would have been fine. Like I got dipped by 0.0 something to, get the first small Q in the first race. So we nearly got away with it. And I made a million mistakes, but I also by design felt that bad. But I didn't know it. Danny had kind of trained me that with the sessions that we did and the days that we traveled and stuff. But it would have been nice to be in the know that I wasn't going to feel great. But yeah, from the gun, I just felt pretty terrible. And then I got super frustrated and made some really bad moves and then pushed from a far way out. Because in my head, this makes sense in my head. It didn't make sense on the day, but with 600 to go, I was like, okay, I feel horrible and I'm at the back. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push really hard from far out so that we run a fast enough time that worst comes to worst, I'm a small Q. Yep. That's what happened in my head. And then so I pushed really hard and then I nearly got away with being a big Q, but it ended up being fast enough where it was fine. But yeah, super embarrassing moment after coming out saying I'm in this crazy shape and I'm wanting to win and things like that. Because I remember walking through media afterwards and they were like, you said that you were in 327 shape and you just were 7th in a 335 race. Like, why are you lying? And I was like, tough. But yeah, that was a tough moment for me. But again, everyone gets humbled at some point, and sadly, that was my humbling moment because of how hard the Olympics is. But yeah, that was tough. But we got over it and we got through it. But yeah, by design, you see.
Yeah. But yeah, what were the conversations that you're having with Danny between the heat and the semi? Was it just a reminder to yourself you are in 3:27 27, 28 shape, or was it just you just being like having that typical, not typical, but that chip on your shoulders, being like, you know, fuck these guys, they're counting me out now.
Yeah, exactly. I think, when you nearly get knocked out in the first round of the Olympics and you might be on the first flight home, you don't really take much more for granted. Like, I was coming in thinking that I was one of the favorites, and then I nearly get knocked out in the first round. So the second round, I was very much humbled and kind of knew that every step was a bit of a lucky one for me. So yeah, it was the mindset of just, we got to get rid of those negative thoughts about how that first round went, and we're just going to get after this next round, because no one's going to remember how bad I looked yesterday when I'm beating them today. And I just remember Danny saying something like, it's going to be a hell of a story. And I thought, in the moment, I hadn't run the semi-final yet, and we had a day in between each round. I was like, yeah, you can't, saying that now, I can say it's a hell of a story, but like saying it when you have a mountain of work ahead of you, the semi-final and the final, it was just a bit like, yep, lots of work to be done then. Because I think Clayton in 2016 might have got a small cue in the first round or the second round or something. So he was like, he was able to get a medal off of that. Like, you're not out of this. You just got to get back into that mental spot. Your body's going to feel better the next round. And so, yeah, that was kind of the conversations.
Yeah. And just before getting into the final, because I feel like you're a person that needs that external sound, the motivators of people saying, Josh Kerr's not going to do this, or even whatever. What was it like being in a stadium that hosts, let's call it 80,000 people, but having, maybe a couple hundred in there with just athletic people?
It felt like no one was watching. And that was the crazy part, is I'd bought a second phone for Tokyo, so no one had my number, because I was getting like a million messages about like, good luck, and like, do you remember me from like kindergarten? I was like, no, mate. And so I bought a second phone, so I didn't have social media on that or anything like that. And so it felt like no one was watching. But when I went home, it was like, oh my goodness, like that was obviously a massive deal, which I knew it was. But when you're in that moment and you're in the stadium and no one's there, you're like, oh, this is just another race that no one really cares about. And so it was a bit of a weird feeling. Like, obviously after the final, like Jacob and Chariot, they're going on like laps of honor, but there's no one in there. So I was like, I'm not running another lap for no reason. Like, what the hell is the point in that? But yeah, it felt weird.
Because like it's weird because whenever I race, it's like, I've run into some big crowds, I've run into some small crowds. I feel like regardless of how many people are in there, you can always hear like a specific person. Like for me, I always can hear my dad, and I can always hear my mum and my sister. Not sure why. It's not like I specifically pay attention to them, but I just can. But in that race, you probably can hear, Gert Ingebrigtsen screaming. You can probably hear the Kenyan coach screaming. Like, I can't imagine what that would have been like mid-race, because usually it's just like loud white noise where it's just loud, but there's nothing distinctive. So yeah, I mean, I wish I was in the Olympic final to experience it, but I'm sure that was a very...
Look.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a very new and hopefully never seen experience again as well. So yeah, semi-final, cruise through. What'd you run, like a 3:32 or 3:33 to make the final?
We ran 30. I think I ran 32, and that was the race where the Olympic record was broken by Kerr.
Yeah. All right. So leading into Tokyo, leading into the final, you had the mindset that you could win this thing. You definitely had the mindset that you could definitely get a medal. And you don't go into a race trying to come second. What actually was the lap by lap or the specific tactics if the race went just your way?
When I watch it back, I still think I can win, to be honest. I'm like, I could win this one. Not a chance. I get absolutely pummeled that last 100. No, I think the goal was not to, the first lap was totally off script. Like, we went out so hard that, I was at the back and I was like, I just ran 57 point and I'm at the back. So like, these guys are either going way too quick or, I feel like, I'm horrible at the sport now. And so I saw the split and I was like 57. I was like, okay, I knew from about 2 years ago, like in 2019, I was like, I'm gonna run sub 330 in the Olympic final in 2020. Obviously, I get pushed a year, so I've been thinking about this for 2 years. So I know the splits to run sub 330 in the back of my mind. I was like, I know them so well. So I was like, Josh, just run the splits for sub 330, and you will. In my head at the time, I was like, and you will win this race. And so I was like, okay. So I locked in splits, and if you look at my splits, they're pretty even. And so I'm not wasting a lot of energy. I'm like peeling past people, and they're obviously getting dropped from that crazy early pace. And so at that point, I think with 500-600 to go, I was like, we're getting some great momentum here. Let's keep pushing. And then I think I was in 5th at the bell, and I knew I could get Stewie because his head was back. And obviously he was running an awesome race, but he was running with such fast pace at the start. I was like, okay, I feel like I'm getting momentum. And then I was trying to go past Kip Sang with 400 to go. And I couldn't get past him because he was also working. And so I waited. We both passed Stewie with 300. And then coming down the backstretch, it was like, okay, I know I've got third. I know I can beat him. But second and first are too far ahead. So I'm just going to stay here. Because coming around the top bend, Danny said, don't go in lane 2, whatever it means, with 200 to go. Just throw everything you've got the last 100. And so with the last 100, I was like trying to break Kip Sang so hard, and we were pushing with, up until about 50 to go. I broke him at that point. And then I went after Chariot to see if I could get him, but there just wasn't enough real estate left. And, I dipped as hard as I could, but I was pretty fooked at that point. And so I was able to get third, but so the thing is when people speak to me, they're like, oh, you were so close to second. And I was like, okay, if you know anything about running, you know that I was closer to fourth than I was second, because if I'd gone earlier, I wouldn't because Kip Sang wasn't broken. He didn't fall apart. He just knew he wasn't going to get third. So he slowed down. And so if he smelt blood with like 50 to go, he would have got me if I'd gone too early. So yeah, I was proud of the way that I handled it. And I knew in the back of my head, like 2019, this is where it went, pear shaped. This is what I've been working on for a long time. And so, yeah, I was very happy with the way that I performed on the day.
Yeah. And I think that there's also that maturity and being so calm in, knowing that first and second are 10, 15 meters ahead, but you still have that mindset to be like, no, I need to sit in here in fourth position to get it to potentially get this third. So I think that a lot of, and I know I have in the past, and I think that a lot of people is that it's like, okay, I need to go on the back straight. I need to go on the bend, where there's so much running to be had on the front straight and so many people to catch. And I think another amazing thing as well is your last lap in that race was ridiculous as well, wasn't it? Wasn't it like or maybe it was your 800 to 1200 split, but there was one of those laps where you ran like a 54 or a 53 or something like that, was it?
Yeah, I think we closed in 54. Myself and Kip Sang closed really hard because we were closing on the top two. But like Danny always says, is like, if I raced it slightly different, I might have got Chariot. But you can never think that you're going to win a race that you didn't win, because you always expect the person who won to have a bit more. And watching it back, Ingebrigtsen was just waiting around. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I would have beaten him if I'd ran it differently or gone early or something, because he looked like he had a little bit more left in the tank. He was just trying to win the race that was in front of him. But yeah, I think we closed pretty hard off the pace we were running.
Yeah. And I mean, you kind of touched on it there. Like, you don't want to say necessarily that, you could have won or whatever, but is there any specific thing, like 329 in the Olympic final and getting bronze is incredible. But is there anything now looking back that you think you could have changed mid-race or even at the start of the race that could have either gotten you closer to first, gotten a second, or potentially beaten Jacob?
I'm really not sure. Like, I hate, if I was Jacob and he was me, and he was talking shit on a podcast and saying that he would have beaten me and I was the Olympic champion, I'd be like, mate, fuck off. So I'm not going to say that, because I think, I've got to give him the respect that he deserves for how hard he's worked and how he raced that on the day. I don't think I would have beaten him if I changed really anything on that day. I think I ran my perfect race. Obviously there was mistakes, but I don't think it would ever have finished in an Olympic gold on that day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I still think it's funny, like, you'd come third in run 329, but I think I even remember reading something like, "Oh, like I'm so close to the British record." So it's like you pretty much live out your dream. You do everything that you say you're going to do: Olympic medal, sub 3:30 in a final. But there's still it still seems like you're 95% happy, or you're just like that. So what were the main things that you say that you just were? If you could get that extra 1 or 2% out of the race, what are they? Is it just the British record? Is it a little bit quicker, or is it a silver, or is it?
Yeah, the British record stung because I was so close to it, and I think I get in trouble for this. I screenshotted where 3:28.79 was on the clock, where I was on the track. Yeah, it's Farah that's got it. It's like 3:28.82 or something like that, or 8:80. And so when that time it stops on the clock, and where I was on the track was probably about this. Yeah. And so I had that as my lock screen for about 3 months, just to piss myself off every time I opened my phone, because I've been wanting that record for a long, long time. And if I don't put my act together, another Brit might get it before me. I know I'm going to hold it at one point in my career, but am I going to be the first to get it? I'm not sure. Because of how good Whiteman is, how good Gurley is, and Hayward and things. So yeah, it's like I really want that one, and that I was so close to it, and that really annoyed me. And so like you're looking for that fairy tale ending, aren't you? You're looking for that like all this work has accumulated in all of my dreams, but I've just got way too many in my head that I just get disappointed whenever there's not whenever I don't run the world record in an Olympic final, I'm going to be pissed off. But yeah, that's a big motivating factor for me, is getting the British record. Obviously got 2 of them indoors. I want the outdoor 15, I want the outdoor mile, and that can mean that I can be happy with my career thus far. But it's all about medals, man. And I want a better color. I'm bored of this color now, so I need to get a better one already.
Yeah, it's and look, like who's anyone to doubt you? Like, you're 3:29 Olympic bronze guy. Like, if you say that you want to be world champion next year, no one's gonna be like, nah, you shouldn't say that. Yeah, I just love that mindset. Just now going into the pro scene. Can you just set me up? Can you just tell me a normal training week for you with the Brooks Beasts? Mileage, amount of sessions, what type of sessions, and then can you tell me one key session that you did, or 2 key sessions that you did leading into Tokyo where you were like, yeah, I'm ready to rock? Because I think the one which I saw where I was like, yeah, this guy's legit, is that 800 meter cut down where I think you went 55, 51 or something like that. So yeah, just a normal training week, because to my understanding, you're still quite low mileage compared to, like Jacob, and compared to other people in that final. And then, yeah, just a couple of key sessions that made you realize that you were ready to go, away from running 3:31 and breaking the soil record.
Yeah, I think, for our training week, normally I run now anywhere between 60 and 70 miles, normally 65 miles a week. And so that consists of a long day on Monday, not a long run, but like a longer run. So like 10 miles, because I'm going to run between 10 and 12 miles on a Monday, but I can't double. And I have a weird reason for it, is I forget to run. Like once, because I've never doubled. So like when I started having Danny as a coach, he's like, Monday, you got to double. I was like, okay, perfect. So I'd run on Monday morning, and then Monday afternoon would come and I would forget. And on Tuesday, I'm like, oh, fuck, like I forgot to run yesterday. And then that happened like 5 or 6 times. And Danny was like, mate, like, are you serious? So I would legit just forget every single time. And he's like, set an alarm. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run all my mileage in the morning. So I would run like 11 miles in the morning. So that's what I do now. Tuesday, we'll have like a track session. Again, it would be a lot of 4s, or maybe like a pyramid session, like 200 up to a K, back down at 200. Or Danny changes the sessions a lot because he does a lot of research and reading, and we do lots of different sessions throughout the year. So it's difficult to pinpoint one. Wednesday, I take fully off. I have a full off day on Wednesday. Thursdays, 9-10 miles, easy. Friday is like another longer session, normally like a threshold kind of longer run. Like tempo kind of work. Maybe it's tempo miles, or maybe just a consistent 6 mile tempo or progression or something. Saturday, I'll run anywhere between 5 and 7 miles, and Sunday I can get all the way up to 16 and 15, 16 miles. So I think with warm-ups and warm-downs and all sorts, it ends up being about 65 miles a week. So we do 2 gym sessions, Tuesday, Friday, so pretty similar than what I did in college, but a bit more mileage, and the sessions are just a little bit more specific.
Yeah. And I think the big thing as well, like I've barely seen you get injured. So do you think that you're able to hover around that 50 to 60 and sometimes 65 miles purely because you've just had so much consistency throughout your career, or that's just what works for you?
I don't miss a lot of days, man. So like, that's what I think, when people are on really high mileage, they risk a lot of injury. But like, my approach is, if I don't miss any days, then I'm going to consistently get better regardless of what I do. Like, regardless if I run 50 miles a week, 60 miles a week, whatever it is, as long as I'm out the door and I'm consistent and my body knows how to push hard on certain days, then I'm going to get better every year. And as long as I keep my weight under control and my diet's good and my gym work is consistent, I find consistency is my biggest thing. I would rather have a year of good days than 6 months of great days. So yeah, I think I've limited injury days with that, which is nice. And so I haven't really missed a day for 2-3 years.
Yeah. And yeah, it was, I know, because I'm pretty sure it's on your Instagram, or it's somewhere on Instagram, where you did that 800 meter cut down maybe a month before the Olympics. Was there any other specific session, like, real super session or anything that you did, which was like, yeah, this is it?
I don't think so. Like, we knew that we'd have to do a hard session at sea level before I left. And so I left the next day to Tokyo, like, for that session. And there was talk about me maybe running the 800 at that meet. And then we were like, nah, we're not going to do that. Like, there's no best case scenario that comes out of that. Like, we're in such a hard training block that, if I don't win or like I don't feel good, then everyone's going to know. And so I didn't really like that. And so we ended up going to do this time trial, and the meet director, Jesse, who does a little bit of work for me as well, we worked together a little bit. He was like, are you okay with me filming it and putting it live on the Sound Running stuff? And I was like, no, that works perfectly. So a lot of people watched that, which was cool. And it obviously went well, had Robbie Andrews pacing for that. But other than that, not really. Like, there wasn't crazy workouts. Probably they came before British Champs. Danny thinks that my British Champs race was almost better than my Olympic final race because of how good Whiteman is. Like, we have such respect for him as a racer, that I take British Champs so seriously. And I think being able to beat him was such a massive confidence boost in probably a race that suited him more than me. And so that's when I knew I was good enough to do well at the Olympics, is when I was able to beat him at British Champs. Because, yeah, like I say, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's great over 800. He's now working super hard to get good over 3K, 5K. So he's going to be super dangerous this year. And he has been every year. So that race was like a big one for me, that I was super proud of, to be honest. But my sessions aren't fancy, man. Not normally. I know that one was on Instagram, but it's normally just, day in, day out. We're just grinding. There's nothing too crazy about it.
Yeah. Well, the way that you said that is that 800 meter cut down was almost more like a race than it was a session, because you almost ran the Sound Running. And yeah, just back on that British Champs, I know we did kind of gloss over it quickly, just because I did want to get to Tokyo, but I think it's amazing the depth of 1500 meter running in Britain now, that Charlie Grice is a 3:30 guy. He's the, what would he be? 5th quickest, or?
What's he now? No, he
was 4th when he ran it, but he'd probably be down to like 5th or 6th now, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
But a guy who's ran 3:30.5 hasn't made the last 2 majors is pretty ridiculous. Which is
3 majors, isn't it? He didn't make 17 either.
Oh, yeah.
17, 19, 21. Yeah, it's crazy. That's just how crazy and hard British Champs is. And you just got, again, like, there's no room for error in our British Champs. And I think it should stay that way, genuinely. Like, if I'm 4th at British Champs this year, I don't believe that I deserve to go to World Champs, because if we can continue to put people on the team that are good enough to be good on the day at British Champs, I think they should be good enough to go to the World Championships. And we're going to continue to have a fantastic British team for years and years to come if we allow those athletes that turn up on the day at British Champs to have the experience of going to a major and not just kind of picking our favorite athletes that we think are going to do well. So yeah, it's a tough championships, but I do enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of touched on that. You kind of touched on something that I was going to mention as well, is that Jake is obviously focusing really on his more aerobic side now. I think he ran a 7:37 3K indoors, which blows my mind that he ran that, considering he can run 1:44. It seems now that the 5K, pretty much in this post-Rio era, has really gone to the more 5K strength guys. How do you see the landscape of the 1,500 meter going over the next few years? And what are your ways? What do you think the things that you're going to implement to potentially go from coming third to being a world champion, Olympic champion in the future?
That's the thing, is like, it's a tough question because you want to say, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. And, you know, this is what we're going to do differently. But I feel like I'm doing things well. I just need more consistency with it. I need more years of experience with it. And that's the only thing I can really say, because I believe that if I can continue to be in 327, 328 shape, which I think I could have ran if we ran it like a Monaco and it's a one-off racing on the rail, like I think I could run that fast. If I can be in that shape on the right day every year, I'm going to get one of them, man. That's all I can say. So I don't feel like I need to change much. I just feel like I need to continue to turn up on the right day and enjoy my training and feel good under pressure and continue to perform. That's all it is. I don't feel like I need to change much. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing and not miss days.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. Now there's another one, I suppose, like, a little less serious. Who are the people on the international scene or even on the British athletics scene that you really enjoy racing and you just, you walk off the track and just like, that was a good battle? You kind of touched on Jake there, but you've also had some good international experience as well now.
Yeah, I think, the more I can race Jacob, the more. I don't think I've beaten him yet. I think he beat me at like under 20 Euro cross when he was like, I don't know, like fucking 12 or something. But yeah, I would love to race him more because he's the best in the world and that's what I want to do. But again, on the US side, I enjoy racing Ollie. I think people can get hype behind that, and maybe Cole Hawker as well, and make the Americans think that they're going to win something. And so that, I think those, getting the eyes on the sport, that's what I want to do. And I want to race in races that people really care about. So whoever's good on that, in that month or like who's hot at that point, I want to race. And I'm not scared of losing, man. That's the thing. And it's the same thing with Milrose, is I will go out and try and push, and we'll try and make it a fun, exciting race to watch for everyone. And hopefully I can come out on top. But if I don't, like, I'll shake that person's hand and say, too bloody good. But I do enjoy winning, but I'm never going to be scared away from someone else's competition. I don't think you can be at this level of sport.
Yeah, perfect. It's the 1,500 meter at the moment is it's such a good event to watch, and the thought of potentially getting back and competing against.
You're going to come back for the 8 or 15.
Yeah, mate. Anything at the moment. But yeah, the thought of potentially doing 15s in just Australia is ridiculous, considering like Matt Ramsden, who's a 334 guy, isn't making the team, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Gregson's 331 and, not making it either. So it's like, just shows the depth. And then you go internationally and it's even more ridiculous. I want to get this on as well, because obviously you've been on the other side of this. And now Brooks have brought out a spike. What are your thoughts on this whole super spike era? And what is it like being almost on the outside of it, being with Brooks, and then being a Brooks athlete and wearing the Dragonflies?
So, yeah, I think most recently, obviously, we've created this phenomenal spike, and I'm so proud of Brooks as a brand to pump the money in, because everyone knows that brands don't make really any money off spikes. And so for them to say, you know what, guys, we're going to work incredibly hard over the next year and a half, and we're going to put you in the fastest spike in the world, it's a ballsy call. And I think it was something that we didn't need. Like, they didn't need to do that. And they've now created a phenomenal spike. And we are in that era, and I do think that, I had the NCAA record the last time that we before the super spike, so I can still say that I've still got that. But the spikes that Brooks have created have blown my mind a little bit, actually. And I went and shook our head spike guy's hand and said, look, like, you've done something really special here. For people who don't obviously run professionally, those guys are kind of focusing on us to see what our response is, because they can do all the testing they want on their own, but they need us, and we work really closely with them. And so that was, getting back in a Brooks spike was one of the best feelings. And now I'm able to finish races and show that spike off, and I'm just so proud of the work that they've done to put us into that shoe.
Yeah. And you'll be running in those spikes hopefully for the remainder of your career until they've got new technology, and then people start running 3:19:15.
Yeah, exactly. So we're working now on the next round of spikes for, the next Olympic cycle. And, I'm working really closely with them. I might try and convince if I can get my name in the name of the spike, but I think we're ways away off that. But we're working on that, and we're getting close to something pretty special for that next round. And we're staying ahead of the curve a little bit now, which is really cool. And we're not chasing, we are the ones leading now. So that's really fun. Yeah.
And it must be amazing as well, being at Brooks, that, Brooks Beasts are the predominant, like they are the Brooks group, and you're the best athlete in that group. So it must be awesome to know that these spikes are made almost specifically for you, so that you can beat the world.
Yeah, it is a very cool feeling, because we're part of a smaller brand that, like, not a lot of other people can say like they've had a hand in their own spikes, and that's a really fun feeling. And that's another reason why I love being part of Brooks, is like they use us so much more than I thought they ever would, and that's a very honorable thing from them.
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, obviously, like, Nike have created this amazing shoe, and everyone's wearing it. But it's also now awesome to see Adidas have come out, Brooks, On, Under Armour have made a spike, I'm pretty sure. So there's it's just good that technology is evolving, and companies are adapting. With the 2022 year, you've obviously got a couple of championships, specifically being European. What are the championships you want to do? What do you want to get out of them? I'm assuming they're just going to be gold medals. And what are the times that you want to achieve for this year?
It's like, me, look, Worlds obviously got to qualify. Number one priority, qualify for Worlds. We have the time, just got to turn up on the day at British Champs, like I was saying earlier. And then, getting there for the World Champs, all I want to do is progress. So I want to have something better than a bronze medal. If that's silver, it's silver. If it's gold, it's gold. That's if we can progress every year, it means that we're going to get closer to that end goal, which is obviously to be the best in the world at one point in my career, which obviously I think is a lot of people's goals. And then from there, obviously selected for Commonwealth Games. So that's going to be a phenomenal race in itself that I'm going to have to be ready for. I'm probably going to be looking left and right and seeing a lot of similar faces from the World Championships. So that's knowing I'm coming into a year with a guaranteed major is a very cool moment, knowing that I'm going to be up against some of the best in the world and going after medals before even a qualifying race is very sick, and running for Scotland. So those are big goals. Time goals, not massively worried. I think, again, progress, want to get the British record, but I don't care about doing it in a Diamond League. I care about doing it on the right day. So in a World Championship final, Commonwealth Games final, if I can get it on that day, then I'm going to be much happier. And then if we want to get after, I think Monaco's after Commonwealth Games. So maybe something like that. But yeah, again, massively focus on the medals this year, and then we'll do times after that.
Yeah. If there's anyone to go out and win 2 medals and then run a 3:28 or 3:27 at Monaco, I'll back it.
I'll pay the bills, mate. Got to pay the bills.
Yeah, you must be struggling over there at the moment. Okay, I feel like we've gotten a lot of Josh the athlete there. We'll just quickly finish off with just Josh the person. What did you study? Because you ended up doing your MBA as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so I got my undergrad in communications. not the fancy of all time. But yeah, then I finished off with I just graduated last December with my master's in business. So got both of those, and not sure they're going to get brought out for a while, but I have them in that background to know that if all goes toots up, then it's I have at least a little bit of education behind me. I'm not just someone claiming my PBs on my CV. So that's the goal.
Yep. And recently got engaged. Congratulations. When is plans for the wedding, engagement, and all that celebration planning on happening?
Yeah, thank you. My fiance is coming up to her 4th year of medical school, so she's much busier than I am. But she's like, why don't we do it in June? And I was like, well, I'll be getting ready for British Champs and hopefully Worlds and Comedy, so no. And I was like, okay, why don't we do it Christmas? And she's like, well, I'm going to be in my first year of residency, or I'm getting ready for residency. So yeah, we're still talking about it. I think it might be a little bit, but yeah, we live together. We share finance. So we're pretty much married. We just need to have a good celebration about it, get the right timing. But yeah, I think I didn't really think that part through. I was like, I'm going to get a ring and I'm going to propose, but I didn't think about the wedding yet, but that'll come.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, obviously you've got, a few Olympic cycles left in you, a few medals, but what are your goals off the track, and what's the thing that you want to get into once you transition from retirement of athletics into that working 9 to 5 thing, whatever that is?
Whatever that is. I think I'm quite passionate about like the education of kind of collegiate signing professional contracts, even British university students signing contracts, because I think a lot of power has left the athletes recently, and I think it needs to start coming back to the athletes and not the kind of companies and agents. And so I think there needs to be a much greater education for these athletes who don't kind of get told and get left in the dark a lot with the big, massive, life-changing decisions that they make coming out of college or coming out of high school or whatever it is. And so I'm kind of passionate about that, and I want to maybe pursue that, maybe put together something that is a bit of a step-by-step process, helping athletes come out and getting what they deserve and feel like they know that they're in power in that position when they're and enjoy the process of turning pro or even going to college rather than making it super stressful. So something like that maybe. And then post-college, I haven't really thought about it. I do enjoy staying in the sport, so probably something within the sport.
Yeah, I think with that college thing as well, it's you were from the UK, but being Australian, it's a little less now. But I remember when I was considering going to college, it's a pretty tough task. Like you're literally sending emails that you've gotten from the website. There isn't much of like a system where it's like, hey, we're going to do this, and if you do, you have to pay thousands of dollars to a person to set you up with things, and then even away from that, post-college, it's people have no idea what they're doing. Like I have Australians message me now being like, hey, like, what should I do here? And I'm like, mate, like there should be someone at Athletics Australia, and I'm assuming the same Athletics sorting you out. But yeah, I think that you've obviously got so much knowledge that you'll, I'm almost certain that post-college you'll probably get offered something to front up a team, and I don't know, maybe you'll take over Danny Mackey. The last one I actually want to say is just because it is fitting that we are doing a podcast. What was the main reasoning for setting up the podcast with for the Sit and Kick?
I feel like it's changes over time. The first reason was myself, Dave, and most athletes know that post races and all the running media, the questions were all so similar, man. Like it was all like so generic, and it was difficult because there wasn't many podcasts. No, there was, but like there wasn't a massive amount of running podcasts specifically, where we can sit down and talk for, a couple of hours and you really get to know an athlete. You're getting those post-race interviews, and it was like, how was your race? Oh, good. How was your training beforehand? Oh, it was good. And that was it. And so we were trying to get a platform for athletes to really show their personality and get that the audience to kind of know who they are. And so we wanted to do kind of those questions and media slightly differently to how kind of the post-race interview was, to make it a bit more fun. So, Dave came and helped me in 2019. before the World Champs, before Doha. And, we were talking on a run one day and we're like, you know what, we should just start a podcast. We went and bought mics and, we did maybe 4 or 5 episodes that will never come out to live audiences that were just the worst ever. And then from there, we were able to learn a little bit more about what we wanted. It's quite funny because those episodes went out onto a Dropbox, which is where our training is. And the only other person who has access to our training is Danny. And so Danny comes clean like a couple of weeks later and says, oh, by the way, guys, I've listened to the podcasts that are on the Dropbox. And we were like, Danny, what the fuck? And he was like, yeah, I know that's an invasion of privacy. Apologies for that. But I did listen to all of them. And we were like, no, thanks for that. And he was like, they were pretty bad. And we're like, we know they were bad. The same reason they're not going to come out. So yeah, it was fun. And Dave's amazing. We both have different perspectives on stuff and we're able to kind of go back and forth, and we bring on some amazing guests like Mr. Mathews here. And we have a bit of fun. So that's a big idea with it. And we do enjoy it.
The last podcast I listened to was the Chris O'Hare one, and David trying to understand what Britain was and what the UK was and how the countries are set up, and that was ridiculous. The thing here is returning the favour. I was on Josh's podcast probably about a year and a half ago, and then he returned the favour by letting me interview him. So
always.
So yeah, look, Josh, I just think that you're an amazing athlete. You've achieved so much, by the age of 24, and you've still got so much left to go. And I think there's not many people out there that say that they want to, that don't have the medals, that go out and say they want to be a world champion, they want to be an Olympic medal. And you've been saying these things for so long, and everything that you've said has pretty much come true. So I just love the athlete that you are. And I'm really excited to see how the next few years go for you leading up to the next Olympics and then the next Olympics after that. So thanks a lot for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And I think that you've gained a few thousand fans in the Inside Running podcast community.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, this has been fun, man. I think, I mean, both of us obviously have worked hard in our careers, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing you back in an Australian kit and pushing for medals. So, yeah, I think you've got one up on me right now with that Commonwealth Games medal. So hopefully that changes. But I'm looking forward to seeing you back in business, mate.
Look, I reckon yours might have a little bit more weight than mine, and you'll probably, and I'm almost certain you'll probably have a better coloured Commonwealth Games medal in July this year. So hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, hopefully, because we've crossed paths in Doha and London at 2 championships. So hopefully Budapest, Paris, and then I don't know, whatever's after that.
That sounds great to me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, mate. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Speak to you later.
Yeah, bye.